Okay. The bots recognize I'm live.
Yeah.
Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Welcome back. Well, the thing is, I technically was only down for like 5-10 minutes. Like, I read the entire Kudo board, and then after that, after reading the Kudo board, I was chatting for a long time. I even ate. Like, I don't know how much you missed exactly, but I was live that entire time until I got suspicious during the latest ad break. Speaking of which, now they're running the ads again. Of course they are, because new stream, quote unquote, new stream technically. Alright, so let's start the new ad break in 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh, it's in progress! What the? Didn't even give me the time to start. Never mind about being starting an ad break. It's already in an ad break. I really, really hate technology sometimes.
Honey, it's okay.
Yeah, but it's very frustrating. Dun, 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 dun. After the ad break is finished, actually, let me use that chance to check on my other times, see if that will. Okay, in theory, things are looking like they're working for everyone. In theory, the ad break should be over. The new ad break after the old ad break. So welcome back, everyone, to new rounds of frustration. I'll have to see if anything I was saying was actually showing in the VOD. If anything I did was streaming through the VOD. But yeah, like, for everyone who has gotten through here, refreshed, we could hear you live. Oh, so you could hear me live, but the visual was stuck on the Kudo board the entire time? Okay, so that makes it slightly better because, you know, okay. Alright. That makes things a lot better. Like, the visual lagging behind, that might be something that we can't do anything about. That might just be the choppiness of dropping all of the frames and you know, generally the lag of my computer having gone kaput, essentially. But the important part of the stream is that, you know, it is a just chatting stream. It's just chatting anyway, essentially. And that was all I was doing, and it's basically all I am good at doing, essentially, which kinda sorta ties back into what I was talking about before the ad break, and the ad break is what made me realize, wait a minute, something might not be right with the stream. So like, welcome back everyone to talk about what we were talking about, or kinda sorta were talking about. Like, obviously, I'm rusty on streaming, but even when I was streaming kind of regularly, like, a lot of what I just do is kind of just talk casually and, like, regardless of what I'm doing, this is pretty much the vibes that I provide, in that I tend to be pretty low-key, like, kind of sorta ASMR, except I'm not good enough to be ASMR. Like, I have that voice that is easy to fall asleep to, but that's because I'm rarely, if ever, loud, and I'm pretty quiet, and, like, I engage chat whenever chat is chatting, but at the same time, I am the type that will have the long periods of silence when I'm not engaged in chat, and I go on these long tirades and am just kind of talking about anything and everything, but also mostly nothing. Like, I am not one that is revealing my life's history while chatting, essentially. I'm kind of just making glorified small talk, essentially, and pretty repetitive at that. Like, a lot of what I'm talking about is content creation stuff and stuff that people can listen to in the background, essentially. So, like, not being able to see anything isn't the biggest loss, but at the same time, I was concerned that things were going badly wrong, so I did have to restart the stream. In restarting the stream, I did potentially. No, I did. Okay, so no, that didn't quite do what I wanted. Like, there should be the option. Like, there should be an option in OBS that allows users to adjust their quality settings. And I can't figure out how to enable that. So, like, if for whatever reason you have the ability to notice a quality drop, that's because I dropped the quality to 480p. I thought that would be like an option that users could set, where they could change it from 1080 to 480 if they chose, but no, it just did universally 480p for everyone. So, like, it's technically a lower quality. Technically, that should help with the lag, at least in theory. And, like, we're showing 0 drop frames. So, like, in theory, things are smoother than they were before. And, like, obviously my stream is still looking pretty choppy to me.
It's not as bad.
Yeah. I basically did, like, a mini version of the edits that I did to your settings to get your stream to be, like,
As smooth
functional.
as it is.
Yeah, as functional as is possible, given the potato PC. Like, the PC itself shouldn't be potato, but, you know, when it basically went kaput, it became, and miraculously recovered later, it was a shell of its former self, and now is a potato PC, whereas before it was
A really good PC.
mm-hmm. Like the PC that I'm using was either a birthday or Christmas gift from my family.
I want to say for Christmas, because I was there.
You were there for that?
I think so.
I could have sworn I had this before we met.
Maybe?
I think it was...
Oh, yeah, because we had to go pick it up for the
Yeah.
new place. That's right.
Yeah.
For the first place. So it was probably... Yeah.
Yeah, it was after I had begun streaming, but before we moved in together. So, like, between, like, 2021 to 2023.
3, yeah.
So, like, probably 2022, I'd assume, either my birthday or Christmas. I got this PC. It was pretty new then, and, like, it's a compact PC. Like, it's pretty small. Like, it's one of the small bricks that are, like, this big. Like, so, like, it's obviously not going to have super duper ultra mega power, but it was designed to be, like, good enough to play games on, and it was good at playing games.
And streaming.
Yeah.
Do you want
But-
those eggs now?
Sure.
Where'd you put your plate?
I put it on top of the microwave, pretty sure.
Okay.
It'll be obvious.
Okay.
But yeah, like, this PC, like, was relatively new back then, and relatively powerful. So, I can probably find it. Okay. So, Don't mind me just kind of looking up the. I think it's 350. Oh yeah. So this PC is Minis Forum Desk Mini UM350. UM350 specs.
I don't have cheese or anything to put in the eggs. So.
That's okay. So, uses an AMD Ryzen 5 350 3550H CPU with Radeon Vega 8 integrated graphics, USB Type-C Gen 2, multiple USB ports, and Okay, CPU. So 4 cores, 8 threads, base clock 2.1 gigahertz, max clock up to 3.7 gigahertz, GPU Radeon Vega 8 integrated graphics, RAM up to 32 gigabytes, DDR4, storage options. I think that this one is probably the 512 gigabytes. Could be the 256 gigabytes or the 1 terabyte.
You told me once before.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I don't know how good though. Like, I am not a computer person, a tech person. I do not know specs for RAMs, graphics, cards, and stuff. So I have no idea how good those are, but like, let's see. Believe is date. Da, 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 da. Dun, 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 dun. Oh yeah, so it was released in January 2022, and that means that I had to have gotten it either July or December of 2022. So like, it was brand new when it was brand new when I got it as a gift, essentially. And then it went unused until Kelsey and I started living together. I picked it up one day to start using it. And like, it ran great until it had a catastrophic failure. And now it's a shadow of its former self because something went wrong. And like, could be hardware, could be software, or could be both. Could be something easy to fix, could be something that is just cheaper to replace it, essentially. I can't... I don't want to risk trying to repair it myself, and I don't have the funds to get it fixed professionally, essentially, so I have to take it as it is. But yeah, like, it was a good PC. It's just that it had a failure and it's a shell of its former self now, and that means that it's not nearly as good as it used to be. Also, for this streams VOD, I don't splice VODs together, I just upload the halves as they were. Like, when I say I upload things as is, I genuinely mean as is. Like, essentially, unless I have to cut a part out because of TOS, it's going to go up exactly as it was streamed, including downages being separated into 2 streams, essentially. And that's mostly just quote-unquote laziness, but also because I genuinely don't have the time to edit. Obviously, I also don't know how to edit, but it wouldn't take me... I imagine it would not take me too terribly long to learn how to edit. There is that startup investment of time and energy in learning how to edit, but after learning it, it's a one-time thing, and then it would just be a matter of doing it. But doing it is still like more time and effort than just uploading things raw, and like, basically nobody watches my VODs anyway. There's something that exists for people to theoretically have access to if they want to, but I know that nobody's actually going to watch them, except like maybe years down the line for posterity. And you know, like, since they're uploaded as is, that means that if I did ever want to, I could technically, theoretically, like use the uploaded VODs to download the VOD and retroactively edit it and re-upload it as an edited version if I so chose to in the future. But to do that, first it requires me to actually, you know, have uploaded the VOD in the first place. So, like, it's kind of a preference thing, it's also kind of a convenience thing, it's also a matter of, like, it's not worth it essentially to edit my VODs, to splice them together, because like YouTube isn't monetized. Like my YouTube is way too small and underused in order for me to get any sort of monetization, so I genuinely have no incentive essentially to put efforts into VOD uploads. So like I upload the VODs so that they're not lost to history. I upload the VODs so that they're there for people to have access to. I upload the VODs so that nothing is lost forever. But that's all they're there for, is to make sure moments like this aren't lost to the ether, essentially. That as long as my YouTube channel exists, so too does the record of me having streamed and me having had these VODs, essentially. And like, sure, that could change in the future, but in the moment, like, this is what it is. And like, I have basically given up on any dreams and aspirations of like content creation being like a quote-unquote career. It's something that I enjoy doing, but I also have no illusions of success doing it, essentially, because like I like to do it, but at the same time I also know that I'm not good enough in any metric, essentially, to have the growth and sustainability to get that monetization and that income rolling in. Right? There are people who have like a quarter of the number of followers that I do that have far better streams, including native. Like, and that's also because part of it is that I am not what I would call an entertaining person to watch. Like, I might, like, I kind of have that, like, kind of, like, podcast vibe, in that I am someone you might enjoy listening to in the background. And, like, sure, that's fine and all. Like, someone in the background to listen to, that's fine. But at the same time, you can get that while also getting entertainment. So, like, I know that there are far better options than me in terms of having background noise and having entertainment, because, like, I might be background noise, but I am not really entertaining. Like, I do not have the big funny moments most of the time. And the few times that I do tend to have the funny moments, it's from getting a reaction from Kels from me having made a pun on stream. And, like, I haven't been able to, I have made something other than sort of one in time. It was Bree. Like, I was trying to end it to her body eventually. Like, I did it today. I just also didn't know what we would be doing it, etc. Awesome. I should wait. Sorry, that join me. I'm going to be looking for my story and my people get this to stop we okay. So you're interested. I'm still here for the next couple hours. We will have 2 VODs to go. We have for this one. So there we go. There you go. Right. First time when I was in things, like, I was pretty consistent scheduling. I was listening to all platforms. I was cleaning them. There was none of the growth involved. And a lot of people, like, you have to find your target pool. There are people who would be interested in my at the same time, that because of the way I do it, because of my my long tangents, and the general right, I'm going to be just I think we saw writers come in who like friends come in, but I do not stream that and be attracted to the growth conflicts kind of. I accept that I'm not going. I the audience. I don't have really, but I'm that you know. I do not expect every character is also because people can find better so there is a choice to make you work me, and that's why it's all. I think we're getting the point where we're going to. I am sorry. Okay, we need to get the steps. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Chart. Visual is petrol lagging. I'm not sure. Could be frames. Dropped frames, which is weird. Like, still like if I'm doing like this. It's choppy. Like the webcam itself is choppy. Yeah, it drops. Of course, I'm doing like to do what you do and drink. I do talk a lot, so I do need to hydrate a lot because, oh boy. And to update during that break, I kept talking. I was both forced to be hydrating during that break and myself during that break. Nope. I just yapped and chatted events. And it was I make a bad bad break, so I saw that. I tried to talk during to only be unimportant stuff by accident. Did some things that were things that were do that. I don't mind because I feel that everything was half an hour. What?
Okay.
Oh yeah, I just talked about my ADHD. I have no idea what I talked about the last hour, so which is that's the station of the recent stream. The talk about the game was prejudice. Since you were smart after the stream was things for there was I think a perpetual visual glitch with the like digital board graphic. Like allegedly from what I hear the audio was keeping up, but the video was stuck at the keyboard not on no matter how much time passed. And I was new end stream, and then when I first started, things did not fix, and I was editing, and I restarted. So technically, actually, be 3 VODs, depending on that, like minute or so of the restart count. Well, I'll find out what it is going to be, what it is, because obviously it was like for future YouTubers, hey, you might click like 2 minutes or something that was like, who knows? That I know about until I'm looking at the files because I can't tell while I'm live. But anyways, the stand of simply test I have streamed to it not well.
Do you want extra salt on your egg?
All. And that's because I need it. And that sucks. For those of you who don't know people, like I do have a whole bunch of commands. Like a lot of them I don't keep up to date because I myself forget about them. But I also do have a lot of of commands for chat to use. Oh, stream hour. I guess it's stream elements. I should add Streamlabs if Streamlabs isn't in chat already. Is Streamlabs present? Nice.
Also, we got a start date for the store.
Oh.
We start August 1st. So, yeah, I don't know if we'll be living in a hotel still by then. But
We'll figure.
I'm better this time of the month.
Yeah.
I feel like
Used up all 12 of them.
I sure did.
Yeah, today was the last day those eggs could be used, so they were both breakfast and now breakfast. I was talking about something quite yeah. Sure. I was thinking about like how to invite everyone to dun, 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 dun. Loyalty, enable loyalties.
What?
Oh, enabling the Dreamlabs slots. Loyalty currency system. Let's change name. Points to.
Is that fair?
This is fun.
Probably like work with stressing. Tater tot half.
Let's try some. Don't defeat the reset point. Other cards. Okay, that is.
Asshole, right? Did I asshole? Excuse me.
That's how most people run Guild too, isn't it? Elements restricted.
But that's not what you're saying.
I'm just saying.
I'm looking for the damn options.
God damn it. Okay, who's this one right now?
Okay.
Here's a little bit. I'm gonna let the boy take on. Your birthday and you shouldn't have tonight. So you might get Parker time, chat.
Okay.
You do have a Parker time.
I do. Hi, baby boy.
You can give him a piece of egg. He might like it. He's never had egg
Oh.
Parker! Oh. To Mama Share. Parker, what's that? Do you like it? Yeah. Come on. No. I'll say you.
We got Parker died. Whoa. I do have to that, but I need to get my command. Okay, so it's pork. Per port. You went woof woof. Probably better save him some, so I think the last two pieces. We didn't retain this.
Good boy.
Yeah. It's still this. You have because the last I have.
Yeah.
The case. That
There's more.
I still don't think you see of the excuse you. Boy.
Parker, there's something to do.
No, you did.
Right. Parker.
Yeah, fine.
Parker.
Dun, 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 dun.
Shirt change. That's it. It's too hot for that t-shirt. Whew, okay. Oh, that is behind.
Yeah. I'm also looking at the gambling and
Like, I'm not gonna give eggs.
to be fair, they were like coded metal system. Oh, back in. I'm sure how members I have no idea if there's a please see and be here. But anyway, break in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and And to next point, a little bit fish. And I thought troubleshoot, but not there's my week. I know that some is good. I think in the game right now. I think I'm after it. So pause the conversation. Restricted. Yes. It's a picture. Okay, I think we should. Yeah, so it looks like that's I'm not going to do the game ideas kind of thing. I so troubleshooting a lot of, just young things and I guess or comes up. I mean, this is all the learn and such and like I don't know how an experience for me dealing and visual like easily can start, but there is some and hearing where really all photo and is there in my time so probably going to be don't do leaves well it's also clear is like your have the quality of statements but it's and I should say for monitoring and that's and it is you're still and this there's no like that can do give good areas and it's we doing the best and I think it's important that you guys still be one thing it's 3 hours actually an hour previous stories all that just turn into after I want to do shots I heard I think that I'm watching that I think that's something the video but again, I kind of that's why I really are all more because not all your as happy and having all more because that really the division for the organization going and I do getting some kind of slide and there's all the various games and things on it but then was setting this up to platform in chat to everything I did up with the happy I wanted it to be and having it be what I wanted it to be I said I read it I structured Twitch things to have chat. It did as I hear it always something that could those memories. And like, while the theme of that is pretty much dead, I don't want to have them therefore just because I'll probably know funny says I was playing I can in community of my own. If they do just I can just I work on anything, especially when I did all these so many just whatever and everything the thing to work on that and all things all I'm seeing and the experience is that I don't is that and I asked that everything and over more and I for here and it's so I think that cameras might be a big I just see papers doing business. He'll have rubber up going to what used to. It's probably and it's not a just like just like it's not anymore. Like and it's I probably have to like here. So yes, and I do know if for a lot of people, I do not know if there's a decent between videos and gaming. Yes, people like what I'm saying is the exact same type of motivation. Like here's here, I've actually talked to people and I found and is as live seeing 2, 3, 4 minutes. I don't know if I'm live fitting on that, and I do anything that I'm right like this. Yeah, it's a deal. Right. Yeah, I do. Good.
Exquisite.